Hey everybody, welcome to Fab Fit Friday. I am excited for this one because I am trying a more, what do I want to say, like a snug fit draft that I found in this book. Now this book, Designing Apparel Through Flat Pattern, was recommended to me by one of my subscribers, so I ordered it, and there's a lot of great stuff in here. And I did get a couple emails from other subscribers who actually sent me more book ideas for next month when I start doing the bodice draft and fitting like I'm doing for pants this month and last month. So very excited. What I've done is I reviewed this book on Monday. So if you missed it, you can check the cool tool for this. Hey, welcome. I'm assuming that is Dawn, right? I think it's just you and me. I reviewed this book on Monday, and then on Tuesday, I showed how to draft a snug fitting two-piece leg in the back. So the cool thing about this is it's got some nice shaping in the back, and it took out a chunk of fabric right at crotch level. So I'm going to review the pattern pieces with you, and I've cut the pieces out of a stretch crepe. So I'm going to try it and see how it fits, and I'll just try it on right now after I sew it together. So I am very excited about this, and I'm going to also say to you, well, first let me just stop and say good morning to Patricia and Andrea. Good morning. These are my West Coast friends. And hi, Mary. Welcome, welcome. Oh, good. And I did guess right that it was Dawn. Dawn has she has an ASG name, so I have to remember it's her, but I think they're doing a really good job. So if you didn't watch the step-by-step how to design the two-leg snug fitting pant, because that's not your thing, on Fab Fit Friday, Fit Tip Tuesday this week, you might want to watch it anyway, because I also showed how to transform a trouser pattern into a more fitted pant pattern before I did the work to the back leg to make a princess seam. So if you're interested in, trying to whittle down the trouser to be more close fitting, I think I did a really good job of explaining how to do that first. So that's another reason to watch Fit Tip Tuesday this week. So let me just show you what I have in front of me right now. I have one of the back pieces. This is the center back piece. And I just want to show you what I do to mark things when I'm doing fit muslins. Hey, Kathy, welcome. What I do before I take off the weights or remove the fabric, I take a Sharpie marker, and I'm just going to zoom in here so you can see, what I'm doing here, just to show you. I'll get up close and personal for a second. What I do is I take my Sharpie marker and I literally dot my horizontal lines like this, and you can see it bleeds through to the fabric. And if it didn't, it's because I'm on a double layer right there, so I'll just move it over. I always check. Okay, so there is my lines, and that way I can transfer all of my horizontal balance lines to my fabric, after I do that. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to do the ones up here now. Okay, and basically what I'm doing is I'm marking the horizontal balance lines, and I'm also marking the vertical grain line. Now in the back, I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to mark, because the vertical grain line was this seam. So actually I don't think I'm going to mark it, because this seam is now where my vertical grain line was. So I think I'm just going to leave that alone. After I take the paper off, what I'll do here is I'll make sure it transfers to the other fabric by doing it again. So see how now it's on the opposite side. So I'll just sink my little dots a little deeper so it transfers to the other layer. And this just makes quick work of, you know, marking everything so I can check to see if we're in balance. So this is just a tip. Now I'm putting this back on because one of my dots did not transfer onto the fabric. Okay, so this dot right here did not transfer. Now it did. So I'm just going to make sure everything transfers. All right, so I have all that marked, and then what I can do after they're transferred to the other leg, I'm just going to go ahead and draw them in like this. And I'm just using a Sharpie marker because obviously I'm not wearing this. This is just a fit muslin, and I really want to see if everything matches. Plus, I can use these horizontal lines as notches for my, you know, to pin it together too. All right, so this is the side back. It's a really weird shape. I've already marked the dots on the top layer of all the other pieces, so I will get to those in a minute. But I do want to also show you the pattern pieces here. All right, so that takes care of, and this is my center back. So I'm just going to make a center back right there. And I'm going to put those aside. Let me just quickly transfer all of this. Honestly, I should have done this before I came on today. I'm sorry, this is a little bit boring, but this is exactly how I do it. Hey, Diane, welcome. One of these didn't make it. I'm just gonna eyeball this one. If I'm off a little bit on that one. All right. So as soon as I mark these lines, I know this is kind of boring. Oops, the other thing I have to do is make sure they sink through to the other side. Now, if you're working with a dark color, I highly recommend using a silver Sharpie marker. Silver shows on almost anything. Hey, Tana. I'm marking the horizontal balance lines on this pattern. That one looks kind of crooked to me. I'm going to see about that one. We'll see. I don't know. Well, I don't know. That looks weird. Let me just... I don't know. We'll see. All right. Let me just do this last leg, and then I will show you the pattern pieces. Then I'm going to sew it together, and we're going to see how it fits. So this one is the front leg. So on the front leg, I'm going to want to... Oh, I already marked the dots. I don't need that, actually. Sorry. All right, let me just sink them in to make sure they're transferring to the other leg. Okay. So the first one I'm going to do in the front is the vertical grain line. Hey, Steph Newman, thank you so much for the super chat gift. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to I'm going to check. I'm just going to double check this for a second. I want to make sure. Oh, it's up here. It's right here. I don't want to confuse any of the lines that might have been for something else for the vertical. Here's my vertical grain line like this. All right, and now I'm going to do this. And then I'm going to do this. And then I'm going to do this. And then one last step. I know this is boring. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. From Bringham UK. Hello, hello. Thank you. It's very sweet of you. I appreciate it. Okay. Let me just make sure my pattern pieces are lined up. And I don't see any of my dots. That's annoying. Let me just flip it back over. This was some fabric I had left over from one of my in-person pants fitting classes. So I decided it'd be good because I needed something that has a slight amount of stretch. Only because I'm not sure how that crotch is going to fit based on the fact that it's so snug fitting. So we will see. All right, now let me draw these lines and then we can look at the pattern. And after we look at the pattern, I'm going to sew it together. So you're going to see the big reveal right after I sew it. And it's really easy sewing. There's only 2 darts, one on each back leg, and then there is just some quick seams. So it won't take me a long time to sew it together. What do I do with my short ruler? Okay, let's just mark this. Let me mark this. And let me mark this. Okay. All right, now that I've marked everything, I'm just going to put the pieces aside for a second, and I just want to show you the pattern because it's pretty cool. So in the front, and this will just sort of be a brief kind of tutorial on how I also made it a slack pattern. This was the trouser draft that I did using from the basics of pattern making, and this is the original pattern. And what I want to do is I want to just put it on there so you can see the difference. So here's my front. So you can see if I line up my crotch level like this, my center line, you can see how much I took out, right? And the big thing was, I think it's like this actually. Okay, so I'm lining up the grain lines underneath the horizontal and vertical lines so you can see on both sides. You can see how much I got rid of over here, right? I got rid of that whole 1.5 inches I added to get the right amount of depth I needed in the front. And you can see how much room I got rid of along my whole inseam. And then on the side seam, what I did to balance it was I removed whatever I removed at the knee on the inseam, I also removed on the side seam. Okay, so that's how I ended up with this shape. But you can see this is a significantly smaller pattern. Okay, the other thing I did was I got rid of the darts. So this draft had front darts, and if you follow along with me, you probably remember that I didn't sew them, and that's why my waist was big on the original muslin. But what I did to get rid of them was I just trimmed off a little on the side seam, and I trimmed a little bit off on the center front to get rid of those 2 darts. So that's what I did to the front leg. And then the back leg, so now this will be more interesting to look at because we have the side front, which looks like this. See, and that's going to line up with that like that. And then we have the the side back, and then we have the center back. Now these seam allowances are going to overlap to some extent because I added seam allowances to this. So if I like put this inward a little bit, I think by here they're touching. By here they touch. So this would be kind of be like this. Let me just pin it together. So over here, I'm going to pin together where the dart ends right here. Okay, so that's where the dart ended. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try to see if I can get this to rotate into the right position, because also like up here, this has to touch here to get rid of the seam allowances. So that will work. Let me just put a thing right there. So let me just pin this together just to show you. So basically I'm just trying to lay them on top of each other so you can see the differences. Let me just pin this together over here. Like that. So you can see this big gap in here? See that? That's the fisheye dart I took out when I created the princess seam. I also moved, I did shift the grain line over a little bit, so, I'm sorry, I didn't shift the grain line. What I did was I cut the dart out at the top. I didn't cut it out, I just crossed it off and I moved it over here. So the top of the princess seam is taking advantage of the fact that there's a dart here. Okay, so that's how the back leg looks. But here's the interesting thing that happened here. If I line up my lines, I had to actually add 3/8 of an inch to the back based on the instructions in this draft. So basically the extension past center front was 2/5 of the full hip in the back, and it was 1/5 in the front. That's why I ended up shortening the crotch in the front, because 1/5 was short. This was 2/5, and it actually needed to be lengthened a little bit. So even though I really shortened this one, okay, to get the 1/5 over here, I did actually add back 3/8 of an inch on the back leg. So we're going to see how this fits. I'm kind of excited, but I just wanted to show you the general, sort of the general way this pattern is shaped. I think this is kind of a cool shape. And what was really fun for me was when I went to go, my sister and I did a Carol's Garden delivery on Tuesday to a rehab facility that also has a long-term care side. And so what we do is we bring knitted shawls and crocheted shawls that are gifted to us from talented knitters and crocheters across the country. They send them to my sister, and then I put the labels on, and then we bring them to these facilities, and we let everyone pick out the color they wanted. So we were doing that on Tuesday, and my sister had on a pair of jeans that had this exact seam on the back leg, and I said to her, I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm so excited. So we're going to be trying it. All right, so that made me excited because they fit her really well, like ready to wear. So I thought that was very cool. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my sewing machine over here, and we're just going to sew this together and see how it fits. Now, I cannot promise it's going to fit. This is a total test. Oh, the one thing I did do, if you remember, if you're following along with me, the only thing that really needed some help on that draft that I started with is the back rise. Oops, hold on one second. Missed that pattern. Oh. All right, the only thing that I did to this pattern before I started working with it. Hey Janie, welcome. I'm so happy you're here watching. Thank you for coming. The only thing I changed is, if you remember from this draft, my center back was too short, so I added 1.5 inches. So I basically added 1.5 inches to that. in the center back. That's the only fitting adjustment I made before I created this style after taking it in. So let's pin these together. Let's do the back legs first. I think that'll be the easiest thing to do here. So I'm gonna lay these out like this. Oops. Let's do one leg at a time. So that's the side back, and this will be, I believe this will be, okay, so see, that's how it's going to look, like this, right? That's the top. Let me turn it around this way. All right, like this. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pin these together, and then I'm going to sew the seam up, and then I'm going to sew the front legs to it. So that's what I'm going to do now. All right, so basically I'm just going to line up these hip lines. I mean the full hip line right here. Pin those together, and then I'm going to pin together this line right here. Okay, and then I'm going to pin this line. See, so instead of having notches for now, this just makes it easy for me to, you know, get everything together. All right, I've pinned that one. I'm going to pin the other one so I have everything ready to go, and I'm going to sew these two things at once. So there's my center back. Let me just put this right sides together. I'm excited to try this. Okay. All right, so now I've got them pinned, so let's sew these together. So I'm just going to grab my power cord here. And then I am going to sew these seams. Now I have a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Hey Victoria, welcome. I'm glad you got home in time. I'm sewing together my hot pants, I'm going to call them. These are going to be snug fitting pants. Oh, let me just make sure that's sharp. I think that'll be okay. Okay, so let's just sew these together. I'm going to use a 1/2 inch seam allowance, because that's what I added. So after I made these princess seams, I did add a 1/2 inch seam allowance to the cut edges, which is always a good reminder. If you're color blocking something or if you're cutting a pattern apart, it's important to then add seam allowances. I decided to use stretch fabric for this because I know if I have stretch fabric, I'll be able to just put them on and pull them on. And if I had woven, it might be too tight. So that's why I'm using a fabric that has a little bit of stretch. I mean, think about how cool a woven legging would be. So it could be like a dressy legging. That's not a knit. Okay, there's one. Now let me do the other one. Okay. Let's sew this other princess seam. You can see here, I rounded out the point of the fisheye dart. I didn't want it to be a tight point, so I curved it a little bit. All right, we're almost done. The only other thing I have to do is sew the side seams and the inseams. So I'm going to sew it together like it's a tube, like I'm doing leggings, and then I'm going to sew the crotch last. So basically what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to take a piece that matches, which is this one, and I'm going to match these up. Now my grain lines might not match up left front to back leg here. I'm not going to worry about that because they're not matching. I mean, the length of the leg matches, that's the important thing. Well, actually, this is matching. Oh, actually, looks like I have a little... Well, that's interesting. All right, you're catching me. You're catching me not doing a very important step when you're making a pattern. I did not walk the side seams to make sure they match, so they're a little off. That's all right. Let me sew this side seam here. See, it's off that little bit. Okay, I'm not going to push it front or back because all my horizontal balance lines are matching. So I'm just going to leave that up at the top. And I'll check the paper later to see what the problem is. It's only about a ½ inch, but something is off there. So always walk your pieces to make sure the side and inseams match before you cut your fabric and sew it together. I was so excited to try this, I skipped that step. But here's the important thing about this. I know where the problem is because all of my horizontal guidelines are matching. If I had no horizontal guidelines or knee line or anything to match up on here, I wouldn't be able to tell if the mistake of one being longer than the other was up at the waist or down at the hem. And it's important to know that because if the problem is at the waist and then you shift it all the way down to the hem, you'll get a twisted leg. Cameron? Oh, my granddaughter's here. I thought I heard her creeping up the steps. I'm going to take her to do some stuff after we're done. All right. All right, let's see. Okay. Now I'm just going to sew my inseam, and again, I'm just going to match my notches. All right, let me just put a pin here. I know this is kind of boring for you guys. I'm sorry. Oh, Mary Smith says Green Machine Special. Yes, it is. It is. I'm very excited, actually. I'm very excited. All right, let's see. Okay. I'm sorry this is not a more thrilling Fab Fit Friday. It will be exciting to see how these fit, though. All right, here's one leg done. Now let me do the second leg, and then it'll be time to sew the crotch. This is so exciting. All right, I'm matching up my knee line here. That's the important one on the inseam. All right, let's just sew this together. All right, we're almost done. All right, last seam. Side seam, and then we're done. And then all I have to do is sew the crotch. Okay, so what I'm noticing here is something interesting. Let me just see, hold on. So I guess my back leg is a little longer at the side seam here too, so I guess I'm gonna have to definitely check my pattern. All right, let me just get this knee line, and then all right, last seam. Linda, hi Jen. Just about made it. I have been excited to watch this as the trouser pattern looks very promising. That trouser pattern, I have to say, I really liked the way that fit, except for the back rise. Like, I could totally sew those into trousers. Without a ton of, fitting things, I think. So you know, Linda, this is the snug version for using the trouser pattern. So this is not the actual trouser pattern anymore. I mean, it is, but I changed it. Okay, last little bit here. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn one of these inside out, or right side out. So see, this one is right side out, right? Here's my right side out one. I'm going to take my inside out one. Actually, let me lay my inside out one right here. Here's my inside out one, right? You can see that this is right side, this is wrong side. I'm going to take my right side out one, and I'm going to line up those inseams like this. And I like to put the seam allowances towards the back. So I'm going to push all of these seam allowances at the top of the inseam towards the back. And then I'm going to sew this crotch, and then the weight will be over. I'm going to try them on right now. Okay. All right, this is so exciting. I'm going to sew this right now. Like this. 1/2 inch. Oh, by the way, you guys, I don't know if you noticed, but I've been sitting on a bench, like a little stool, for over a year, and finally it started to give me like a pain in my shoulder, like it was, I think, pinching something. So I have a new chair. I'll show you the new chair when I get up. All right. Okay, I started in the back. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take a piece of Scotch tape, and I'm literally going to take this pin out, put a piece of Scotch tape over all of these seam allowances. So see how I'm holding them? I'm holding them towards the back, you know, because I'm going in the wrong direction. I just want to make sure they don't flip over to the other side. And then let me just do this last little front area. Okay, this is exciting, everybody. I'm just going to shut my machine off and kind of just push it out of the way. All right, so let's take a look at this. First, I'm going to take all this tape off that I use to hold the back seam allowances towards the back so I don't get, you know, that's going to be scratchy. I mean, take that off. All right, now let's look at this. All right, so here's how the front looks. And here's how the back looks. Okay, now see how cool that is to have that seaming detail? Like, see, all the way down the leg like that. That's kind of cool. The way my sister's jeans were styled, she had little welt pockets that were sort of centered on the seam. I think when they got towards the center back, on the jeans my sister was wearing, I think they did a like a curve towards the side seam, so this seam was more in the middle of each leg, and then they put a little welt pocket, you know, centered on that. But I'm going to be very interested to see how this fits. All my everything's matching, which is kind of cool. So let me just slip these on, and then we're going to see what we can see. So while I'm doing that, I'm going to let you enjoy the beauty of my new chair. Hey, RT Blades, welcome. You're coming for the big reveal. I'm going to be showing you how my body contoured pants fit that I drafted. But in the meantime, you look at my exciting new chair. Isn't that nice? It has wheels, so now I'm getting used to being on wheels again. I'm going to just put these on. I'll be right back. Okay, so now I can't see, lovely chair, thank you. I'm so excited to have a real chair. I mean, it was comical, the chair I was sitting in before, because it literally was like a piece of curved wood on a pole. That's what I've been sitting on in a year. All right, Mary says, I'm happy with those center seams are okay. I have cargo pattern from Jaylee that is just too baggy. I did the seam down the front and back to take out quite a bit. All right, so now I think I should, oops, I'm sorry. I think I should not have used stretch fabric because they're kind of big, and I didn't look to see how they fit, so you're gonna have to tell me how the back looks because I have no idea. Which the back is what I'm really interested in, obviously. I'm going to move my chair out of the way. I'm going to push this down so you can see. All right, so here's my front. See, but I think I should not have used stretch fabric. All right, and then here's my back. So here's my side. Like, I can't really tell how they're fitting until I really look in the back view. So you guys can tell me what you think. Back leg. Oh, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take my phone and see if I can see my back view in my monitor. Hold on. Let me see. Hold on. Well, I can, except it's too far away. I can't really see what I look like. But you tell me how that looks. I'll be able to look at it later. So you guys got to see it first. Yeah, I think, I don't know. Let's try sitting in them and see how that works. Okay, so interestingly, I can show you that when I sit, you can see the waist is not dipping down in the back at all, right? So that's kind of cool. They're very comfortable. They're very comfortable to sit in. I can cross my legs. Yeah, I could see myself making this into a pants pattern, you guys. I don't know what the back looks like. Did anyone look at it and want to tell me how it looks? I'm going to go look in the mirror since no one's telling me. I'll be right back. Hold on. yeah, I like that. I like it. I like it. And I'm going to show you something. Okay, so some people did tell me while I was looking. Karen says the back looks great. Looks big at the sides right now. It does. I used a knit. I used a stretch fabric. That's why I shouldn't have. Dart looks pointy. Maybe it needs ironing. I definitely think it needs ironing. But here's another issue that I saw, and I'm going to show you on my pattern. Mary says I need to iron too. I know I need to iron, but I'm not going to do that right now. But what I am going to do is show you something that's contributing to my issue. So let me switch this. Oh, and let me get this going over here. I think part of what's making the dart look too pointy, I don't think it's the dart. I think what it is in the instructions for this draft, and I'm going to color it in so you can see, they had me, this was my original back right here. That was the original back. And so my original back on this side went like this. Right? And then they had you add this curve in here to curve it out a little bit. Now, I don't have a flat behind. I don't have a prominent behind either. I have sort of an average shaped behind. So maybe adding almost a half an inch of ease on above each, fisheye dart, I think that's what's causing it to be a little wonky there. So I'm going to trim that off, and I'm going to sew it deeper there to see how that looks. But I do want to say, for a first test, I am really excited about these, and I really feel like, for a close-fitting pant, I am going to play with this, and I am going to make some more adjustments to it, and I will obviously tell you whatever adjustments else I'm going to make. I'm going to try cutting it out of plain muslin and see how that fits, and I'm going to get rid of the stretch. I mean, this fabric is not ultra stretchy. It's, if you look at it here, it has some give. I mean, it's not, like, it won't stretch. Let me just check here if I do it. Oh, I guess it is stretchier than I thought. I can pull it 2 inches, so it's probably between 15% stretch, 10 to 15% stretch without making it a scuba suit. So this is a fairly stretchy fabric. I am going to make it out of a non-stretch woven, and I'll share how that fits. I'm going to get rid of that extra curve that I showed you, and I'm going to try that and see what that looks like. But I feel like these might be a nice silhouette for some spring pants. Kind of excited. So stay tuned for that. Now, I am going to be here next week. So next week, I think what I'm going to share next week is the, right, because today, next weekend is Valentine's Day. So on the Friday the 13th, I think what I'll do is I will make muslin versions of this pattern I'm wearing now, and I'm also going to make new muslins for the Jan Minot and Don McCunn drafts, doing the fit adjustments that I talked about several weeks ago. And I'll share all that next week, because the week after that I will not be here. I'm going to be in Arizona teaching a 3-day pants fitting workshop, so there's no Fab Fit Friday 2 weeks from now. And I'll remind you of that again, when I get closer. But then there will be a final Fab Fit Friday on February 27th. So I will see you again in February. And during that Fab Fit Friday, I will recap all the pants, draft, and fitting things we talked about in the last 2 months. And I will introduce what I'm going to be doing for the bodice, draft, and fittings series I'm going to do in March. All right, so that's going to be our plan. But I can tell you, sitting in these pants, they feel really nice. So there's no tightness in the crotch. There's nothing, and they don't slide down. So again, I'm going to try it in muslin to see, and then I'm going to see what I want to do. So join me next week for more muslin fitting based on making adjustments to the drafts that I did in the last month. So that's what we'll be doing. So I hope everybody has a wonderful rest of their day. Thank you for watching. I hope you have a nice weekend. You know, if you're somewhere cold, please keep inside. Like I went hiking this morning because I know it's going to be like feeling like -30 here on Monday, on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So I'm going to stay inside those days. But have a nice weekend. Stay safe, everybody. You know, if you're somewhere where things are crazy, please stay safe because, you know, I want to say, obviously, Minnesota, but also any other places where, you know, it's crazy right now. Please stay safe. And also, I just want to send it out to the universe. I hope they find Samantha Guthrie's mom. That's making me crazy that someone took someone's mom. So I'm worrying about that too. But in any case, oh, Karen says, you like that plan. Hope we don't get too much snow tomorrow. I know my buddy Bob Maxon told me we were only going to get snow showers tomorrow. I don't think it's going to be serious. So I'm going to go with that. So here in Connecticut, we are going to get a little more snow, but I don't think it's going to be a lot. Because if it is a lot, we have nowhere to put it on our driveway. We had to shovel. So anyway, get the milk and bread. I will be getting the milk and bread. Plus I made a big pot of gołąbki, which is Polish stuffed cabbage. I made that yesterday. So I have a big pot of comfort food for this weekend as well. I've already been sharing it with some of my friends. So anyway, you guys have a great weekend. Thank you for following along with me. You know, if you didn't have a chance to go check Fit Tip Tuesday this week because you weren't hot on doing a princess seam back leg, definitely check it out if you have interest in doing, you know, a more slenderized, or taking a trouser and making it fit more closely to your body, because I show how to do that in there. There are links to everything in the description below. Oh, Karen, your mom used to make gołąbki. Oh, I love it. I love it, love it, love it. The whole house smelled marvelous. And then I put the big pot outside. I have a big blue Dutch oven, a Crochet Dutch oven. And when I went to take it out or bring it inside today, it was so frozen I couldn't get the lid off. I had to wait for it to defrost. So I'm going to be parceling that up and putting it in the refrigerator, and I'll be all set for the weekend. Oh, not Polish. Well, oh, so wait, Mary made cabbage roll soup. That's yummy too. When I'm feeling like I don't want to take the time to steam the cabbage and roll it up and everything, that's another good option. And Karen says not Polish though. Well, there's several kinds of there's several nationalities that make stuffed cabbage. And if you're ever in New York City, Ben's Deli is an amazing restaurant. I mean, it's a deli. It's a Jewish deli. They make amazing stuffed cabbage, but it's more of a sweet and sour flavor. Mine is savory with bacon and onion. So mine is more of a savory. But anyway, all right, you guys, you have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Everyone stay safe and warm. And I will see you next week. All right, I'm going to go hang out with my granddaughter now.